You know it's a bad sign when you're playing a Soulslike and you cannot break the barrels. I spent countless hours on some of the best Soulslikes out there, and now it's time for me to play some of the worst. Hey guys, how's it going? It's me Fermyon here, and today we'll be taking a look at Your Sword is So Big, a mature medieval Soulslike made by Boom Games. This isn't the first time I'm playing something made by them, as we have previously played through Elisa Dragon Hunter. So let's just say that I'm looking forward to seeing how similar they end up becoming. As always, we will start by looking at the reviews. There's quite a few of them, although it's sitting at an overwhelmingly negative reception. The review with the most engagement simply states, "No nudity," while the most recent one goes a bit more in depth about what the situation might be. The game is a good asset flip, definitely not a crypto miner, and certainly not made in China. I am not paid to say this. Help. They are keeping me hostage. Well buddy, it seems I will be joining you. We boot up the game and we are greeted by a pretty big menu with a selection of maps. For the sake of comparison, let's just say that this is similar to how you teleport to various locations in Dark Souls by using bonfires. We also have an options menu which shows the controls and all the graphical settings you can select. It's worth noting that there's no other translation present, which means that you can only play this in English. Back to the main menu. I try clicking on the girl icon with Your Sword is So Big, but nothing happens. This is disappointment number one. Hopefully, there won't be any more. I first tried the Japanese inspired level, mainly because the guy on the image looks like the Elden Ring samurai. We get into the world and it's quite a lag fest, and we die before managing to accomplish anything. I kept trying to attack but nothing worked. As it turns out, you actually have to draw your sword out in order to fight. This sort of reminds me of The Witcher 3. If you haven't played it, basically you have two swords for two different types of enemies, steel for humans and silver for monsters. You can attack monsters with a steel sword, but it's going to be ineffective, so you have to get your silver sword out for them. In this game, on the other hand, you are just expected to have it drawn out for a fight. It's kind of tedious, but I can live with that. Let's talk about combat itself for a bit. It just feels awful. There is zero forward momentum when you attack something, so you pretty much have to get all the way into their face in order to actually hit something. One of my complaints with Lords of the Fallen was that there's too much forward momentum. Honestly, I would much rather have that than nothing at all. Also, there's a lot of sound effects missing. One thing I love about Bloodborne is the sound design when it comes to parries and visceral attacks. There is nothing exciting like that here, and I understand this is probably a crypto miner. But still, is it my fault I was hoping for something better, something more? Maybe. Also, one thing to note is that lock-on doesn't really work. It serves only one purpose, showing the health bar of the enemy you are targeting. Anyhow, leveling up here gives you additional skills, things like rolling, a combo attack which feels like a weapon art from Dark Souls 3, and crackers that seemingly do nothing. To give credit where it's due, one thing I love about this game is that it separates dashing from rolling. You know how in games like Bloodborne, Lies of P and Lords of the Fallen, your roll turns into a dash when you are locked on. I might be part of a minority here, but honestly I'm not a huge fan of that system. I find that simply rolling is much more enjoyable. Thankfully this game differentiates the two and you can do both whenever you want, as they are bound to different buttons. In my opinion, this should definitely be a core part of the genre moving forward. Unfortunately, there aren't any other good things I can say about this game, but there's still plenty of bad things we can talk about. We keep fighting on and I discover that my health is recovering on its own, running away when I'm low, and just waiting for my health to refill on its own. Don't you love untested game mechanics? Speaking of untested, I was pressing my ability buttons when suddenly it takes me back to the main menu. Not willing to go through the Japanese area again, I've made the decision to go to the hub area and see what it is all about. And honestly, it's just boring. There are no NPCs, these portals take you to levels that you can normally see on the menu list, so you really have no functionality to be here. To top it all off, there's kind of no point to the game at all. Sure, you can fight enemies and level up, but you don't have anything to do besides that. There's no boss fights or anything of the sort. Well, there are some enemies with a lot of health, but I'm not sure if that makes them count as a boss. I mean, come on. Bosses are pretty much the essence and soul of these types of games. Not having a boss in a Soulslike is the same as going to Lidl while the bakery is closed. The main reason for it to exist is just not there anymore. This game promises a big sword, but there's no real customization to be had. No extra weapons or anything like that. To be fair though, you can swap out your character model, which is cool I guess. So what do I think of your sword is so big? I think instead you should just play some Dark Souls too.